Welcome to In Your Neighborhood. I'm your host, Chris O'Rourke, as we continue our series Conversations on COVID-19 and look at how our area is dealing with the coronavirus. But we're not going to stay in our area for this episode. We are actually heading to the Big Apple to talk with two people who are there now dealing with COVID patients. And one of them is Dr. Jake Morton, who is from our area originally. Jake, welcome to the program.
Hello, thank you for having me.
So give us a little bit of some details on your background, Jacob.
Like you said, I'm from the area. I'm originally from Southern Columbia, and I went to college actually at Bloomsburg University. Then I went on to dental school at New York University, so that's kind of why I'm here. And I'm currently doing a dental residency at St. Barnabas Hospital in the Bronx.
So how long had you been in New York City then?
4 years of dental school, and now this year of residency. So I'm going on 5 years now.
Do you actually live in the city?
Yeah, I live in Manhattan. I have a studio apartment here.
Okay, wow, good for you. So what would have been your normal path? I mean, when you reached this point, you're at St. Barnabas doing a dental residency. Would you have stayed there or would you have moved on to something else, or didn't you really know yet?
Dental residencies are only a year for general practice. So the plan was at the end of June, early July, after finishing up, maybe staying here for a little bit, but then eventually going back, probably like August, September back home. That was my plan. I was kind of pursuing that, but hopefully we can still continue with that, with how everything's been.
Okay, so dental residency, what are you normally doing at that? What are you doing for a residency?
It's just like a further learning experience. So in New York, you have to do a residency for a year to get a license if you want to be licensed in New York. Other states like Pennsylvania, you don't, but it's just a good idea, I think, to get some more experience. You see a lot of patients, since being a hospital, there's a lot of patients coming in and you have attendings that are overlooking you. So you're working under their license. So you can get better at procedures that you haven't had a lot of experience at, or doing some more difficult cases. So that's pretty much what it's basically for. And then you just also get to help out a lot of people that, especially in underserved communities that might not have a lot of access to dental care.
So what was your reaction, let's see, early March, maybe even earlier than that, back in February, late February, when it appeared that the coronavirus was coming to the United States?
I think at first, I didn't really know what to think. I mean, I had heard things on the news, but the hospital hadn't really told us a whole lot at first. I wasn't sure if it was going to be as big of a deal as it seemed. And then I think come like mid-March, when they started closing down everything, restaurants, bars, gyms, everything was getting closed, I realized, oh, this really is a big deal. And the cases were increasing pretty dramatically, pretty quickly, even though the testing was lagging behind. So I thought it potentially could be worse than what we were seeing.
So at what point in time did your dental residency take a turn, and why?
It was right around mid-March, I think around like the 15th or 16th of March. PPE, the gear that we wear, was getting more scarce. The hospital needed it, and it wasn't as needed for, in the dental clinics. We started kind of dwindling down the patients that we were seeing. It was like a step thing, but it was going really quickly. Like every day it would be much less, and eventually they just canceled all elective procedures, not just in dentistry, but in the hospitals also. And at that point, we were only able to see emergencies, just dealing with patients in pain, or if they had an infection or something like that.
So you eventually switched from being a dental resident, so to speak, and moved into the hospital wing, specifically some COVID areas as well.
Yeah, one of the first things they had us do, my residency, there's a lot of us, so we didn't need all of us to be seeing the dental patients, so they put us into the hospital. We first started out doing testing of suspected COVID patients, doing the nasal swabs and helping out, so that way some of those doctors could stay in the hospital where they might have been more needed. And then from there, we kind of just kept getting moved around. We've helped out in the pharmacy, filling up the medications on the different floors. One of our jobs is to go around on the COVID floors and take vitals on the patients, checking their oxygen levels and their respiratory rates, and then working with the internal medicine residents to figure out, what the next step is going to be for those patients. And I know some of the residents have also worked in the lab actually doing the testing, like, mixing the solutions and getting the results and reaching out to the people that have tested positive.
So what was your first day like of doing that? Were you a little nervous being around the COVID patients?
Yeah, I think I was a little bit nervous just because I didn't know what to expect. Um, I don't know if it was that they could have had coronavirus, or the fact that I just wasn't really sure what I was going to be doing 100%. But after we started, it was actually pretty laid back, and the people were very kind that we were testing, and I think everyone was a little bit unsure. So we kind of unified with that, and it wasn't nearly as bad as I was expecting it to be.
So how has it been since?
And it's getting much better. I think numbers are going down. When I first started doing the vital signs on the COVID patients, my floor alone, there was 40 patients. I just actually did it last night, and we were down to 16 patients on that floor, so it's a little bit less than half, which is good. And I've just been getting more used to it. This has kind of just become normal now. It's been, like a month and a half, so I'm getting pretty used to it, I would say.
A lot is made of the PPE situation. What's that like in the
Mhm.
hospital?
Um, we've been pretty lucky at my hospital. We do have PPE. I mean, it's had to been taken from the rooms, and it's put into certain secure areas so people can't just take it and take it home. I think that was a big fear that people were taking, especially masks and stuff in the beginning. Um, I haven't had an issue with getting PPE. Luckily, I know I've seen things on social media or on the news where people have really had issues, and they've had to almost do like homemade remedies of how they're going to protect themselves. But fortunately, we've had PPE for me and the residents.
Okay, now I'm kind of burying the lead a little bit here because you are the first person I've spoken to who's had COVID.
Mhm.
When did you get it and what was it like?
I got it shortly after it first started. I would say a little bit after we started closing the dental clinics and doing some of these other jobs. I don't know if it necessarily was from being with patients that might have had it or did have it in the hospital. I think it maybe could have been from commuting, or it could have been from other residents that I was with. I don't really know. It was pretty bad. It was similar to the flu, like you hear, but in my case, it was worse. It lasted longer, like a week and a half of fever. Very much like a cycle where I would feel pretty good. I thought at first I didn't think I had it because I thought I would feel fine, and then at nights it would get much worse. Fever would hit, chills, muscle aches, things like that, headache. There's some gastrointestinal things that I was feeling, and loss of taste, which is weird. One of the things that they're now saying, I definitely had that. Food didn't taste as good. So it was a weird experience. I definitely wouldn't want anyone to have it, but I don't think for some people, it's not as bad. So I don't think it's something that everyone needs to be as afraid of. There are certain instances, certain demographics that are definitely more susceptible. And I was pretty lucky. I mean, I felt bad, but I don't, hopefully won't have any long-term issues or anything.
Did you know right away that you had it, or did you suspect right away you had it?
A couple days went by. I thought maybe I had food poisoning because I didn't really have the cough that I was hearing about from the beginning. And I wasn't really sure if I was getting fevers. I didn't have a thermometer or anything, and I just felt kind of off. But then I would say by the end of the week, I found out that I was with a resident at work who did test positive. And I think when I heard that they had tested positive and with my symptoms, I kind of knew that I had it. So that's when I went to get tested at work.
Was that a little scary at first?
Um, I think, yeah, a little bit, but like I said, it started off the way it started off. I wasn't really sure. So when I started to think that I did have it, and I knew how I was the past few days, I thought, okay, if this is how it's going to be, then everything will be fine. It'll just be like the flu. Like I said, it lasted a lot longer than the flu typically does for me, but yeah, it was okay.
Okay, so you're over it now. A week and a half, you said?
I had symptoms for like a week and a half.
Okay. How do you know how long you're going to be kind of diverted from the dental residency yet?
Right now, we're not sure. There has just started to be talks like last week about how they're going to reopen the clinic with all these new guidelines. We have to get PPE for us. We can't have patients, gathering in a small area. The dental clinic is kind of small, so we usually people are really on top of each other there. They're trying to figure out how to go about it. Hopefully we can get back in before the residency is done in June, but if not, we're all willing to help out in the hospital in the meantime.
So you've heard, obviously, the horror stories from other Bronx hospitals.
Yeah, I've seen some of the things like Elmhurst and them, yeah.
Okay.
It's some of those other bigger hospitals have been really hit and have been really packed, unfortunately.
You don't know people who work there? You haven't talked to any people that have worked there about what it's like?
Not some of these ones that you're seeing on TV. Most of my fellow people that I went to dental school with that are in residencies now are at hospitals similar to mine, where a lot of patients, we're full, but not to the extent that you've been seeing some of the stuff on TV and stuff.
So what's New York City like right now?
It's pretty quiet. Like I said, you can't, I'm sure it's like this probably back home too. You can't go to restaurants, you can't go to the gym, you can't go to a bar or anything like that. Especially when this first started, there was really nobody outside. Now that it's getting warmer, you do see more people walking around. Fortunately, just about everyone has masks on. People are still trying to maintain social distancing. I think that's really important, just trying to stay away from people that you don't absolutely necessarily have to interact with. Going to the grocery store is kind of weird. You have to wait in line outside 6 feet apart, so it takes a little bit longer, but things are getting a little bit better.
So, because we've seen pictures down here of it, and it looks like it's a ghost town, which is kind of remarkable for New York City.
Yeah, it really is. I go through Grand Central to work every day, and usually it's jam-packed, and now there's like nobody in there.
So what do you do on days off then?
There's not too much to do. Mostly hanging out in the apartment, a lot of Netflix, watching a lot of TV. My girlfriend and I, we walk our dogs. That's kind of our outside, just take them around the block so they can go to the bathroom, and then we come right back up. She's working from home, so she stays busy, so I just try to stay out of her way for the most part.
So otherwise, how are you dealing with this personally?
I think pretty good.
Being sick.
Yeah, I think much better now. I think I'm doing pretty well. A great support system. Like I said, I live with my girlfriend, so she's always here. Staying in touch with friends, family back home. A lot of my family is in healthcare, so if I ever have any questions, I can talk with my brother, my mom. So I think I'm doing pretty good.
How rough was that for your family to know that you had it, and they probably couldn't do anything about it, probably couldn't get anywhere near you?
Yeah, I think they took it pretty well. They just told me to keep my head up, not to worry too much about it. I reassured them that I was feeling pretty good. I didn't have anything that was worrying me that made me feel like I needed to go to the hospital or anything. I was just staying quarantined in the apartment. I think they handled it pretty well, and they just kind of took my word for it that I was okay. Being in New York City, I don't think that they were gonna rush over here anyway, since it's such a crazy time. But yeah, they took it well.
Okay, Dr. Jacob Morton from New York City, Southern Columbia grad. Thank you very much for joining us today. Certainly glad that you got over it, and that it seems like things are kind of winding down a little bit there, maybe.
It does seem that way. They said the lockdown officially May 15th is supposed to end. There's some rumors going around that things are going to start to open up maybe a little bit before then. I'm not really sure, but it does seem to be winding down.
Okay. Thank you very much for your time today, and good luck moving ahead in the future.
Thank you very much for having me.
Okay, and we will be right back.